Today in the podcast, we have Gabriel Luna. He's a marketing virtuoso renowned for his strategic mindset and passion for creativity. As the engagement and communications manager for KobreCo, the parent company of Trojan Storage and QuickStor, Gabriel specializes in crafting innovative, data-driven ad campaigns that drive success and leave lasting impressions. Additionally, Gabriel serves as the chair of the Marketing and Communication Committee for the California Self-Storage Association, underscoring his influence and dedication in the industry.
Sweet. Let's get started. Super pumped to have you, Gabriel.
And, welcome, man.
Yeah.
Long time coming to nerd out, I think. We get to nerd out in other settings, and so finally getting to put a mic in between the few of us here.
Absolutely. Again, long-time listener. I listen to a lot of the podcasts, of course, first and foremost surrounding AI, because it's a topic near and dear to my heart. But absolute pleasure to be here. Super technical. I love it. I nerd out right along with you guys. So absolute pleasure to be with you.
It's awesome to have I feel like you're known in the industry as the AI magician, AI wizard. You have many names, also blending in cool technology with marketing, which for me is really awesome to see that. We've been able to, we've been in panels together. I've seen you speak at other events, so I'm really excited to have you here. Just to first off, to kind of start the conversation, I've noticed like you come from a computer science background. And for me, it's super interesting that you've kind of made your professional journey all the way to marketing and self-storage. So I'm just curious, can you share a little bit about your journey? What got you into the industry? What interests kind of sparked this whole journey for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So just even more context, like I was privileged at a very young age to even just have a computer in my home. My dad works in Unix systems, which is like a dying art, but that afforded him the opportunity in his time to really travel the world. And again, I was just privileged at a very young age, 4 or 5 years old, for my dad to sit me in front of an IBM computer. And, I've really been in love ever since with just technology and computers in general. I feel like I've always kind of been on the forefront, whether that be, learning Adobe, Photoshop, learning, HTML back in the day from scratch. Still today, I can launch a notepad and draft you a whole website from code. Like that's just something I'll never forget. And so I think it's really, I've always been attracted to technologies and advancement. And so really how I wound up here, that's a good question, right? Like I think everybody in the self-storage industry how did I get here? I really think there's a part of my brain that I call like the left brain that loves data, loves tech, loves numbers, loves to crunch. And then there's the complete flip side, the right brain, that's the artist. It's where the creativity comes from. So I think one of my many blessings is really to be able to combine both those left and right, and while being technical and be a data centric and savvy, be able to express that outwards then creatively. I think that's really kind of earned me the position that I am in right now, with the new title that I don, engagement and communications manager now for the KobreCo companies. Fancy titles. Yeah, we love fancy titles. I've been speaking for quite some time, whether that be in high school, running pep rallies. That's really where it started, being addicted to being in front of 2,000 people and on the microphone and getting their energy up. I was a DJ, so controlling the music, and again, getting the people to move and get excited. That's just something that's just something that I've always done. So it was very natural for me to move into really any industry and be able to put my heart, my passion into my work, and then in turn talk about it. Again, I went to Long Beach State, where I got my degree in computer science. I got a minor in interpersonal communication. From there, the military wanted to draft me into like making military mock-ups and demos, and I had no interest in that. My entire family works in aerospace, and I probably should have went there, but with my whole family being there, I kind of wanted to do something different. And I just explored, and I worked in so many industries because I've just been courageous enough to do so. I've worked in the health, I've worked in toys, I've worked in medical, I've worked all over, civil engineering, you name it. I've never been afraid to kind of jump in and jump on new technologies and learn new things. I know a lot of information that in my career today is absolutely useless, but I'm still proud to know it, such as AutoCAD. Like, I'm never going to use AutoCAD again, but I could whip you up a house right now if I need to. And so again, technology's always been at the forefront. I've always been a learner, a teacher. And so, to no surprise, when AI came in, I knew immediately out of the gate that this was going to be something special. And I'm proud to say that today I'm using it on a daily basis in my operations.
Man, Gabriel, that was such an awesome intro. I think we could have an entire hour long just digging into all the different nuances and stories from the early days. I know I saw Kyle light up a number of times, just playing around with Unix, and then obviously the DJ thing there. That we just keep going. I'm curious though, because you have really honed in on yourself being this kind of forefront leader in what I would consider not just talking about AI hypothetically, right? But putting it to practice and utilizing it day to day. How do you stay up to date on all that kind of stuff? I mean, we're constantly sharing information internally, but what's Gabriel doing on a day-to-day basis to continue to stay in the forefront here?
I think it's literally use it every day. One of the biggest conversations that I think I'm going to start having in 2025, and not to move away, is really getting people on board to use it. How much more can I purport that I use this every day? How many more ways can I show? I've traveled the country, and thanks to companies like Janus doing recording videos, they've taken my video around the world. And I mean, so now I can say I've been around the world purporting how to use AI. And when I still go ask people here in my office, here in the industry, when I attend, various conferences and summits, are you using it? Oh no, I'll look up a recipe. It's it kind of blows my mind still that we're a year, 2 years deep into it, and people are still, just playing around with it. I laugh all the time. I joke, but it's not a joke because it's happened when I say, if ChatGPT goes down this morning, my workflow gets thrown into the Stone Age immediately, because I just am relying. I've built it into my everyday processes. When I start my computer in the morning, I boot GBT. And
I actually want to double click on that just really quick, Gabriel. Give us a little bit of a peek behind the curtains. What does that day to day look like? Gabriel wakes up and Gemini's welcome him to the world and opens curtains. You go how does this actually? You say, hey, this is something you're using day to day. You're trying to figure out how to involve it into it. What's the actual use case from whether it's the time you sit down at the computer or maybe, I engage with Siri every night and every morning when I wake up to turn on automations around the house. But I'm just kind of curious where it falls into your workflows.
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, my house is covered in smart devices. So I won't even touch that, because that's a whole, everything is turning on and off by itself. I barely whisper. It just does it.
I knew we would have to kind of keep us on track, because there's we could sit here and just have cocktail hour and totally derail the entire conversation. But
absolutely. So I'm going to stick to generative AI then when I speak to this. Really, not every morning, but it's getting there. I've really started using the voice function to talk to GBT. And this is something to really flush out ideas. So on my way to work, candid, it takes me about 30 minutes to and fro to get to work. I'll use that 30 minutes in the morning. I just randomly pop on voice on GBT and just start talking about whatever it is. Today, I have a meeting. I wrote this email. Should I send that email before the meeting so that everybody has it? Or should I wait to discuss it and then send them the email afterwards? And then I'm engaging in this conversation with ChatGPT, and it's kind of weighing the pros and cons and why I may want to do this. And You might, if you send it ahead of time, you might already set the tone for people. They're going now they have expectations, but if you wait and fill them out, then you might be able to adjust your, like just things like having that conversation. So when I arrive to work, it's like I've just worked out these very minute nuances in my how I'm going to start my morning, and I'm just using it now to just toss ideas back and forth. So first, that's the first thing I'm doing, and that could be not even work related. There are so many things. I'm not ashamed to say this, maybe. That I'm almost using it like like put your psychologist hat on. Like I need to work through my feelings and emotions today, and have that same conversation. And I mean, it just gives you something, or like I kind of knew that already, but I just almost needed to hear it. Like so, like, and so I'm using it in this most just conversational way to flush out and work out own ideas. So that's the base one I want to say, and that's just something in the morning I do on my way to work. When I get to work and launch it up, it's the first thing that I'm using. I'm typically writing emails with it. So I have a bot that I just call the email cruncher, and I basically write almost every single email out of it. I essentially serve it the email. It writes the first draft, and then I go in there and zhuzh it. It's learned from me so much. It's really starting to mimic the way I talk. So I find myself editing less and less and less. It's really got it. When I work with companies, like, and I just mention their name, I'll say, hey, write that quick email to Rodolfo. It already has that full context. So it says, hey, Swivel team, how's it going? I didn't actually ask it to say that. It knew that, and it brought that information forward. So the more I'm feeding that bot, and that bot's been fed now for damn near 2 years. It's a very smart bot. And I talk to my district managers here in the office, and I ask them, how much time do you spend writing emails to various vendors, various local city governments about, whatever it is? And they say, oh, I'll carve out like my Thursday, like half my day to do it. And I say, in that half a day, how many emails would you say you approximately write? I don't know, maybe it's somewhere between 5 and 10. And I'm telling them, like, I will write those 5 to 10 emails. I'll write 10 emails for you in the first 10 minutes of work, and you could just skim through the draft and fire them off. So I just keep on communicating how much time I'm saving. And
challenge accepted, right?
Right. I'm not sure what more I can say besides, start getting out looking over your shoulder and say, you're going to do it. We have it. That's kind of been a conversation within Trojan is, when do we go to corporate, our office, and really say, this is now the standard? We don't want you doing it the normal way because you're just wasting too much time. Half a day on an email is like this. That's kind of crazy. I feel we value your time so much that we want you to use GBT so you can get on and get to better things where your value is better used. And so just those are 2 small pieces, but they're major pieces that really push me forward, let alone the technologies that are doing reviews. So part of my morning is also to review all the platforms and all the reviews. I'm also have a bot has Trojan's verbiage and language, and we appreciate you taking the time to leave this review. It's got all the nuances in there, so really easy. I can fire off very personal reviews. And so again, something that would have taken me maybe half a day and it's necessary, I'm now cranking out Monday morning within the first 20 minutes, getting my coffee, and I'm off to the races. So that's why I say my second best friend is Down Detector when GBT is not acting right. I'm like, well, I better
ask. Did you freak out last week whenever it was down?
Yes, I always freak out when it's down.
So
I always freak out.
I wanted to dig in a little bit as you're talking, right? You are known, like I mentioned earlier, as like the guy integrating AI into his day-to-day marketing strategies, like how you operate. Like it's awesome to hear like that even like that example of your drive to work and just using the voice capabilities. That's awesome. So
Gabriel's 100% in the future. He's living in the future, man.
yeah. I mean, he's Gabriel is ahead of the curve. I'm just curious, kind of now going back to you're saying how you're like trying to distill how to use this within your organization, like your team, colleagues, etc. Can you like dive into like this, like maybe I don't know if this is the right direction, but like the psychology of it. Do you think it's just hard for people to grasp? Is it more where you have to go in and kind of set up kind of like a playbook or education, so they kind of start understanding, hey, these are, other than like writing an email or coming up with recipes, like you're saying, like this is the breadth of what you could use it for. Like, how are you tackling that within the organization?
It's a good question. I guess to get to the answer is we haven't figured it out yet. I am on the forefront, and I'm very thankful here at Trojan that they allow me the space and the tools to play and purport, and I'm constantly presenting. We've gone as far as doing presentations, so we'll do a training where we had our district managers again. I love to pick on them in groups. And one station was okay. This station, you're going to generate a small script just so they could see the power of how fast it could generate. The second station was okay. You're going to take that script and you're actually going to step in front of a screen and record it. And so we had them do some commercials. So there were various stations where it generated ideas, and I gave them specific prompts and specific things to do. I remember one of the stations was there was envelopes and you got to pick. When you opened it, one of them was like, you need to write a letter to the local city government who just gave you a warning for that illegal banner on your facility. Write them a letter explaining and how they could use GBT to just generate that so fast, coaching them to copy and paste the email into GBT so that you don't have to start from scratch. GBT actually has full context, especially if it's a chain of emails. It knows everything. And you can just jump right to the answer. So I've attempted so far by just simply housing trainings and really kind of putting the tools into their hands, giving them the pre-prompts, really kind of guiding them, and they can see the magic, and they're having fun, and they're generating pirate commercials and all kinds of fun stuff that they can play with. But then at the end of the day, they go back and I ask them, have you actually started using it now, like in your real day? No, I really need to do that. No, so I haven't. I'm not sure yet how to get through that penetration. I mean, for me, it's just innate. Like I want to dive myself into it. It's really tough because I understand. I see what they're doing, and I know that there's tons of time savings should they use the tool. But there's so far, it's just no one's innately choosing to do so. Now,
It's interesting because it is just like another tool, right? Like, and anytime you introduce technology into an organization, like the hardest part is behavioral change, right? Some new process, some new platform, whatever it is, like, and that's what it is, right? And there's so much ambiguity in these systems that it actually makes it harder, right? Like you introduce a new CRM, like, hey, whenever you do a phone call with a customer, you're going to go into the CRM and you're going to take notes into it. It's like there's not an ambiguity there. Whereas this, it's like, you just said you use this thing to have freaking, psychological, test on your own self to just bounce ideas off of and everything like that. It's interesting to kind of dig into like, how do you change behavior?
Yeah, I think there's an element there where kind of thinking about it a little more, I think people get stuck at such a level zero, like they're not sure what prompt to put in. And the prompts they can think of are very, very simplistic, like what, something that you would Google, like what's the spelling of this word? Like, oh, okay. And then they use it like that. And it's just like, oh, there's really no difference between ChatGPT and Google. It's giving me the answer. Like, what I have found, even in my own household and even in my own department, is like there's this process of you understanding prompt engineering. And I think this is going to be the key. I'm actually glad we're having this conversation because I think I'm onto something. I think it's really like I need to spend more time on very simple prompt engineering so that they can understand the capability that they need. The more complex their question is, the more complex an answer they can get back. And I think that's might be where the hang up is that when they actually sit in front of it, and because in all the trainings, I'm basically pushing them all the way down the funnel. Like I'm telling them exactly what to put, what to do, what to think, and then it's like an ad lib. They can just plug in a few things and it changes to their. But when they actually sit blank in front of it, and now it's their job to create whatever it is, I think that's where the hang up is. It's like I'm just not sure where to even start, what question to ask first. So as I'm off to the races and I think I'm pulling very practical things down, the people who are, I think, technical savvy or just jumped into it, really gravitate to the practical stuff that I present. But I think a lot of people are just still stuck at the starting line, saying when they get in front of GPT, I'm just not sure what to ask.
I think there's like there's two pieces that like I like to dive into here. One of them is like what has been kind of pre-programmed into us by existing technology, right? So like in yesteryear, when you're engaging with a Google Assistant or an Alexa or Siri, you've got to very much structure your question so that you're getting something back appropriately, right? And so you kind of need to understand the framework that the system works in. Whereas like, GPTs are so much more free form. Really the thing that you need to do, and this is a conversation, like a core value within the Swivel ecosystem is being curious. And a question that I pose, a lot of times is like, how do you encourage and teach curiosity, right? And one of those is like, especially with these systems, it's okay to fail, right? Like being curious is digging down a rabbit hole, going after a thing and seeing if it works. It's asking the system how to better get a response from it, right? And like just exploring that curiosity allows for somebody to now start to get more comfortable with going off of the rails from like where we were, in kind of yesteryear, because it sounds like a lot of what you guys are using it for is like ideation as a first draft of things. This isn't necessarily something where it's going to make a decision and change pricing within your facility management system without you guys reviewing and editing and doing it. It's like this is really something where the curiosity and the failure is okay because we're getting closer to an answer at some point in time. And you always are going to have a human in the loop in order to make the actual decision, even if it's with your review mechanism here too.
Yeah, I think you make an excellent point. And in fact, someone sent me an article earlier in the year. And I, unfortunately, I can't recall the title, but the premises of the article was that like the industry was waiting for the tools to be built for them. They're waiting for all of the CRMs or FMS, whatever you want to call them, to integrate the AI so that it'll do what you need it to do. And there's a sense, I feel a lot of people, I think generally speaking, excluding probably the four of us here, I know most people purport that the self-storage industry are late adopters. There's a few of us who are complete opposite of that. But I think there's some truth to that the late adopters are just kind of waiting for their FMS to adopt it, so that they can just say, now create that, because it is that open framework is, we're either too busy or to not think of how to channel that. And I think it's so important. I actually tell yes, let's wait for those tools. Once they're integrated, they're going to be powerful tools. But right now you should be using it so that you can understand the mechanics of it. You can understand the capabilities of it because you're touching it, you're dreaming with it yourself. And then when that new tool comes, not only are you going to fully understand like how it's doing it because you've touched the tool, you understand the tool, but now you could see that this tool is actually is acting like a bot, even though it's in your FMS. It literally has one thing that it does, and so now you can kind of see this flexibility. And so I think there's really like these two things going on, like the AI is emerging within the tools, and then just what I still call like the Wild West, the tool itself, where you can dream any of those things. And so I guess it's really that, Eleanor Roosevelt quote where the beauty belongs to those who believe in their dreams. So you got to get in there and dream with it. And I think that's it. Like when I first started, it was exactly what I said. It was very simple, very simple questions. But here and now it's very complex. Like there, 10 stage prompts out of the gate where it's only through the experience. When I had it write the email, oh, perfect. Now I need a follow-up email. Oh, perfect. Will you actually disseminate those notes? And then I said, wait a minute, I just had to type 10 different prompts. I realized that I can actually compile all that into one. And now I have a mega prompt and I can go from A to Z in this process really quick. And so I would have never, you just have to touch it to understand that you can do that. And those aren't touching it. They're not affording themselves the opportunity to learn what it can do. And so that's why I say when everyone says, how do I get started? I just say, you just got to touch it. Just get your hands on it and start with whatever. I know you're like, how can I use this for work? Start with your home life. What do you love to do? You love to cook? Start there. Start playing with it, and you can see all these things. Holy crap. And then you can relate it like, oh, you know what? I see I can probably use this to generate these emails or something. So I use it at home all the time, with just various mundane. I'm looking up all kinds of stuff. I have completely stopped using Bing, Google, all of them. I am using GBT solely all the time. And it's through that just kind of fun playing with it, does it spur the creative ideas of, oh, I might be able to use this in this work capacity.
That's awesome. I mean, you continue to sound like just the way that you're like talking about all this and how you're like a little peek to your brain. I'm just curious to
He's
double
not a
down on
passionate
that.
person at all. There's no passion.
Yeah, no.
Zero passion.
I'm curious, like how, like taking a step outside of AI too, but just in general, your day to day and how you like your brain, how you think. How do you balance that creativity with like you're heavy on data driven decisions and making those decisions with data? Is there a happy medium where you're just kind of balancing both? How does one feed into the other? Or like, do you take, you also mentioned at the beginning, you come from many industries. So it seems like you have experience in many different things. Maybe it's all culminated to this moment, but are there any like lessons from outside of stores that just have influence how you approach work?
Absolutely. I wish I could tell you I had it down pat, but that would be an absolute lie. I feel I'm in many directions a lot of times. I'm on the road, I'm not on the road, I'm doing heavy data one moment, I'm creating posters the next moment. I really feel I almost couldn't even retrace it to tell you how I got here. It's like I'm doing Footloose, and I don't recall what I did. It just came from the heart, and I danced my little heart out. How I did it, I don't know. It was just like that passion. That passion fires me through stuff. I constantly feeling overwhelmed. I because I care, because I'm passionate. Um, it's difficult sometimes. This industry can be difficult. I think I'm hard on myself. Like now I'm getting real open and reflective. Like I'm hard on myself, and I think that drives me to use tools and to teach and learn. I'm constantly wearing that teaching and learning, being mindful. When the fun stuff hits the fan, and when you're feeling overwhelmed, like that's the moment when you really got to ground yourself and reel it in the most. I'm an emotional being, if you couldn't sense, and I constantly have to ground myself and make sure that because I'm a speaker, because people look up to me, that I always check my energy. I got to walk into a room knowing what kind of energy I want to bring. So mindfulness. There's a lot of mindfulness that goes into my daily. Setting intention that regardless of the tsunami of work that's coming my way, that I am going to just surf the best surf I've ever, and I'm confident that I'm the best surfer. I think there's a little bit of drinking my own Kool-Aid of confidence, like I'm knowingly walking into a tsunami, like I'm feeling like Brody from Point Break, like I got nothing to lose. And I keep walking out of the storm, ahead of the game, and having courage. I think that's a word I keep using too, just the courageousness to be ahead. There's been a lot of myself this year that's wondered how much of the judgment that's happening that's because I'm using AI. I think at the beginning there's a lot of stigmatism. You're not even doing it yourself, you're just doing AI. And I just want to iterate here for the public that a lot of the things that I do with AI, ChatGPT, I can do them myself manually. I can write those emails. I can create those images. I am an artist. I don't need ChatGPT to actually complete any of my work. I use ChatGPT because I know I can do it, and I use it to do it fast. I'm worried about our youth because they're going to learn these tools and they're going to be able to do all these cool things without actually knowing how to do it. they'll never be able to sit in front of Adobe Photoshop and knock that image out. Like they're going to rely only. So, I think that's the difference between some of us, and I'll go as far as calling myself a pioneer in this industry, is that we're learning how to do things we're already doing faster, not necessarily trying to do, just get past and move fast. And so, I think a lot of the things I'm just confident. I'm confident in my work. I keep it mindful. I show up. I show up for myself. I show up for my team. And at the end of the day, I just stay in my lane and get it done. And I'm just appreciative for people like you, people in this industry who continue to support, who I continue to support, and are helping hands and lifting hands. And I make myself available to you, gentlemen, and anyone else in this industry to do the same thing.
Man, Gabriel, I didn't come into today's podcast like ready for a motivational speech, but like let's go to war, man. Like, come on, what
I'm fired up.
What are we gonna go accomplish? And like, I'll throw some flowers your way, man. I think it sounds like there's a lot of what do I want to say? You're doing a lot of personal affirmations in the speak there, and a lot of that comes from this thing that you're going through of like trying to understand the value between yourself and the machine. And I can tell you that it takes an artist, it takes somebody that has that special ability to go out and not only execute on the thing, but also to preach about it. I do want to get into some of the nuts and bolts, right? Because I think some of the times, we talk about stuff in it, and for people that aren't in it day to day, it can be, ambiguous in a lot of ways. So I'm kind of curious, like, to dig in maybe to something that like you're most proud of within the Trojan ecosystem, within the marketing department, that's like made a really big impact. And it does not have to do with AI. We've obviously are gonna we nerd out about it, but I'm just kind of curious if there's like, hey, this is over the last 2 years in my role, I'm so proud about this project that we pushed forward. Like the nuts and bolts kind of that.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, there's so many moving pieces. It's a hard question to answer because Trojan right now is going through such exponential growth in so many directions. I feel like if I were to pick one, it's kind of the one I touched upon already. It's all of them, like that, been able to juggle so many things at once and keep my head above water. All of this is fresh in my mind. We're at the end of the year here, so I'm fresh out of my review. So I've definitely been reflective on my year, pros and cons. And on the pro side, just really proud to continue to carve out, what the marketing department is. For a long time, I've been a marketing department of one. That's kind of the joke about my website, which is Magic with two A's. I remember listening again to Bill Hoban from Westport Properties, and they have an entire department for data. It's called DOTI, Department of Data Intelligence. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. A full team just dedicated to data like that. I don't know how I'm one person. And so when I really started using GPT, my acronym for Magic was again myself and AI, generating intelligent campaigns. That's where it came from. I'm happy to say I'm a department of two now, and we are rocking and rolling.
100% growth right there.
Exactly, and it might as well be the whole department because both of us are using GBT, and I feel like we do lifts for 5 people each. And so I say we're a department of 10, 8 virtual and 2 real. And we rock and roll it. And I'm really proud of our department for just continuing to roll with these punches in these tsunamis, carving out. And we're doing very basic stuff like standard SOPs for all of our processes, carving out who does what. It's really identifying, what's going on, what the mechanics are, what the KPRs, like have a full marketing manual for Trojan Storage through this time. That's something that is near completion and it looks beautiful. I think we've set standard for the rest of the company in terms of what this looks like. And so extremely proud of that project. Really, work this year was about QuickStor. Trojan has this new partnership with a software company. So for the previous 8 years of my storage career, I've worn an operations hat. And for the first time in my career, I get to put that down and put on another hat of a vendor now. And that's been fantastic. Really leveraging
Welcome to the dark side, sir.
the dark side. Yes, yes. Welcome to the dark. I'm up at 6 a.m. setting boosts up. Love it. The travel, the networking. I've been, with the CSSA for 5 years, volunteering there, and now I see absolutely the dividends of that. The networking, the events that I attend. It's the happiness. It's the people. I say this message here at Trojan, and I say this message to the entire self-storage industry, that it's the people. It's the people that keep me coming back. It's the people like Anastasia, over there, or, Eva Chavez, Beacon Street. I mean, I could go on and go on and go on about the people who I have these amazing interactions with, and they're just so bright and so energetic. And I love to exchange marketing information, AI information. I just attended an SEO PPC conference there to learn that. Like, again, I just have a passion for learning. I have a passion for people. I am passionate, so it's awesome to have a channel to channel that into. And I'm just proud of I'm coming upon 9 years in this industry, and just to be here, to be excited about it still, to be learning, to have opportunities to travel and meet new people and see new technologies emerge. I don't feel like I'm finished in this industry at all. I feel like I'm actually just catching my stride.
I'm grateful for that, and another shout out to Anastasia at Safeguard. We've been tapping her to get on the podcast with us, so maybe if she's listening, we're gonna finally wrap her in. I want to keep going down like kind of the where the rubber hits the road on the like the marketing side of things just a little bit too, because there's so much knowledge in your head around that. I think as AI and automation is coming into play, and you touched on this, it's really about the people at the end of the day. Whether that be your internal customers with your employees and your coworkers, or even more importantly, the end customer that's renting and leasing from you guys. Like, what role do you see personalization playing in self-storage marketing? Maybe today and then in the future as well too.
I think it's important. I think that there isn't. I guess it's really hard. I want to say it's important, but I kind of see this as it's a moving target. Traditionally with emails, right? Like Constant Contact is always telling you just put their name in. By simply putting their name in, that personalizes it, and they're like X amount times more likely to open it. And so, is it that simple? Can AI just stick their name into the auto, generated? I feel it takes it, much more further. I'll use Swivel's own example from your bot, where the girl says, I can't pay my rent because my dog. I gotta take my dog to the vet. My grandma's in the hospital. The fact that it can take that verbiage and say, oh my God, like I hope your grandma's all right. Like we hope your dog is good. Like let us know and call. Like the fact that it could do that, like I feel so much stronger than just your name. Like it actually leans on this piece of compassion that it just makes a difference in people's life. And I should know that, like, as the more I go and have FaceTime and just am able to in just conversations have a bit of personalization in there, it just means the world. It means the world to me, and so I would imagine it could mean the world to somebody else. And so I think it's hugely important. And because it can do it so automatically, like why would you not do it that way? I've always said this, and I'm finding it to continue even more so is when I review a lot of the conversations in the back end of our Swivel studio. I'm seeing people, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes into the conversation, finally thinking like, wait a minute, is this a bot? Like you just had a 10-minute conversation, which you thought it was somebody until, you had an inkling that it could not be. And I think that's pretty damn near impressive that, someone was really getting their answers solved. Just like me, I feel like it's that drive to work. I know I'm talking to AI, but there's a part of me that has allowed myself to suspend reality for a moment and just have that conversation and get the information I need. To me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I'm not talking to anybody. In fact, it's almost like I can I can tell GBT my deep darkest secrets, and it's not going to judge me. It might actually give me some clues how to work that out. So I digress.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's awesome. A common theme that like we talk about in general is one, putting like your customer at the center of your universe, and really meeting the customer where they want to be met. These tools allow for that, and then you talk about some of the empathy that's being pushed through these systems. Um, with the example of your mother broke her ankle or something, recommending a drive up unit. I think another thing that we constantly preach is like, these tools allow for us to have a human moment as well too. Maybe
Yes.
in that second it's the AI that's doing it, but like we've progressively profiled, and now can somebody on your sales team follow up with this woman, in a personal way to create this moment of delight that, she'll never forget came from a self-storage brand, right? It was never expected. The system helped them make that connection, et cetera. And that's a really exciting thing. Um,
Abs- And
I want
correct me
to,
if I'm wrong. In Swivel, before you move on, the biggest sentiment across all your board is thank you. Does that still stand so?
yeah, it's the number one most repeated phrase, or like sentiment is gratitude, right? The system's not always perfect. We're constantly evolving, just like the ecosystem and the AI landscape is on how to do this better. I think there's this like really interesting balancing act of like wanting to be so future forward and like going to the latest and greatest thing, but also going, hey, like we need to be grounded in we're solving business problems today. People are transacting in our platform today. How do you balance this like between the two equals and really create something that's not only easy to use from a consumer side, provides value to the operator, but at the end of the day like allows for us to have insight, et cetera, and little tidbits like, hey, our number one most repeated phrase or sentiment in our system is gratitude. That's a huge piece of the puzzle. Switching hats, like you talked about your operator hat, you've got a vendor hat, and a hat that we've kind of touched on is like the chair of the CSSA, like marketing and communication like committee. I'm curious, like from that hat perspective, digging into like what are some of the just biggest challenges like self-storage operators are facing today. I know you guys are part of like marketing mastermind groups. Like what is the over the last 12 months and looking forward 12 months, like what's that conversation about? What challenges are you guys trying to tackle together as a community?
The biggest one to just briefly talk about is in California, all the laws. Really what's on everybody's mind is a lot of these laws that are changing, and I'll leave that there. And if you are in California, have facilities, you should absolutely look into that and be on board. With that being said, outside of that, I think a lot of people are just in this idea of optimization, really like, is this the best? And it could be almost in any in any magnitude. Let me see, one that comes to mind is the entire good, better, best, for example, on your website. That's a big conversation. Like, everyone seems like their technologies are running, but it's now about all the little nuances. What's the best way to display? Should it be the good, better, best right out of the gate? Should you allow them to select one and then recommend the best, or recommend the best? So we've done a lot of like various workshops around the country where these kinds of conversations, like, how much information do you collect on your website? Do you want everything? Are you having them fill out the entire thing out of the gate? Or you're just trying to collect the most minimal information to get them in the door, and you'll want to collect it on the backside. I think those are the kinds of discussions that are happening right now from a lot of the summits that I'm attending. Is streamlining and perfecting and fine tuning websites. Like, I think everyone's kind of understands now like where their spend is. They know how much they can run up against the reach or not. And so now it's just like we kind of got the basics covered, and so now they're really kind of again in this fine tuning mode. What little things can we do to help the entire UX and get them through the system. Again, there's conversations about how much information do you collect before, getting them to actually reserve or rent. How are you displaying it? Is it struck through? Is it priced bigger? Is it it's navigation as we move towards automated facilities? We're now discussing, I hear a lot of discussions around wayfinding. If your facility is used to having a manager there all the time, and then you decide to pull it and stick kiosk, Now, how are the people going to find their way to unit, 1026? Like, I have no idea. And so we're really exploring that. Are we needing to put up physical maps? Are we needing to put up QR codes to help you guide? Are we using technologies like
We're going to
ingrained
give
mapping
everybody VR
system?
goggles when they walk into the facility,
There we
let
go.
them walk around. I'm kidding. Hopefully, sometimes a little bit of an overuse of technology. There's a lot of problems to solve, right, in the marketing
Yes.
tool belt. Whether it's value-based pricing, where you're trying to understand like legal ramifications. I want to kind of keep exploring like how you create a framework around testing some of these things. Like, and maybe the question to like really hit home is like, as you're pushing out an experiment, maybe around collection of information pre and post like the rental piece or collecting payment, like what's marketing success look like for Gabriel at Trojan, and like what metrics are you like prioritizing to measure that success?
Oh wow, that's a big question too. So many angles, so many KPIs.
Gabriel, you knew you were coming on to get your brain picked and like nerd out with us. All right, you thought you were just gonna go on the AI wagon, but like we're gonna try to go a little bit deeper here, and then we'll come back and let you gloat a little bit more about AI stuff.
Yeah, one thing I'm really proud of is that what Trojan does really well is team collaboration, and I'll maybe touch on one. It's like a multitude of KPIs from different perspectives. So just to kind of paint what that looks like, let's start. Let's say, for example, Thursday today, we actually just got we'll say our weekly Sparefoot meeting, and what that looks like is we pump out a lot of reports out of various systems, whether that be our Google Analytics, whether that be our FMS, all kinds of places. And we started building our own dashboards. We're no longer reliant on the out of the box dashboards. And so we're using visualization tools, things like BI and Tableau, et cetera, et cetera. And we're essentially building our own KPIs. And these are really like ever evolving dashboards, because there's been input from the president of the company. There's been input from the COO. There's been input from the CEO. There's been input from pricing. There's been input from, our side. And so it's really now at this point, it's like a multitude of KPIs depending on who's looking at it. And then we're building these dashboards that essentially are like multifaceted dashboards, all pertaining to one particular thing. And that way, when we go into these meetings and we're making these business decision pricing adjustments, we'll have CEO there who, has knowledge of what's happening at the site. We have pricing and marketing there who understands what promotions and what specials and how things are trending. We have marketing there, and of course, we're the data people. We know, what's transpired. We know how many leads and move-ins and what that conversion percentage is, and how much that's costing per, and what the ROI is on that. How long are those channels staying? What is our glass ceiling? We know that we can't spend past this money because they don't stay that long, and so it's really having all of those metrics in front of us. And we really go like facility for facility. So we might stare at one and we'll pop the dashboard over and it just blows up with full. We know right in front of us, we'll have occupancy rate and move-ins and leads and conversion percentage and what our budget is for the year. Are we over? Are we under? Our spend history, where our rank and zip was, and what the results of that, and when that time frame happened. We have historical in front of us. How do we typically do in December? What did we do in December last year? What is our trend in December for the past 5 years? So in front of us, we have all of this information. Everybody's probably looking at different stuff. Jordan, who works in pricing, is probably looking. He knows it's in promotion, so he knows we can probably push a little more. I'm looking at marketing. I see that this channel is actually kind of trending downwards, that I may need to reallocate this to a PPC or an SEO because this is not working. So it's like everyone comes together. It's like we're a Voltron. Everyone's got their own perspectives, and when the arms and the legs come together, everyone's kind of checking their own KPIs, and we make that decision together and move forward. So we all leave that meeting saying, my KPIs were met and we're good, and we can all feel good about that. So a lot of it is just continuous evolution of what you need, building that in, really automating that. So a lot of that stuff just gets emailed directly into our server and uploads in. So a lot of these dashboards are constantly being automated with AI, and it's really just carving the time for us to all get together. We powwow and we make those decisions, and we all feel really good at the end of the day.
I'm proud to say I know what Voltron is. I used to watch it as a kid, so good call out.
Megazord for those who are a little bit younger,
Yeah.
maybe.
I'm curious that so with all the data that you guys are looking at, and even some of the points that you touched on with like the CSSA, from your perspective, like what would you say are some unexplored areas or trends that the industry is not currently looking at that maybe you find exciting? You're like, I think we're moving here. Not a lot of people are talking about this stuff. Anything there?
Gosh, so many things come to mind. I really think it's going to be the ease. I think for me, let me speak to my needs right now. If I could get GBT to do something for me right now, it would be really the ease of getting things in and out of it. Sometimes it plays nice and will, provide me Excel spreadsheets, and sometimes it has a hard time creating those. And so I think, I see improvement. Since I've been using at least the generative AI since the beginning, I'm seeing the tool continually improving. One other one is verbiage in imagery. So I wanted to say Trojan storage. At generation one, it says Trojan storage. And now I'm trying to Photoshop those two extra
Like
T's it threw in
it's like
there, and
Spock came in and like wrote in some other
right,
language, you know.
threw some extra O's in there, and now it's getting really close, right? Like it's almost perfect more than 50% of the time. So it's those small, like that constant use that allows me to see the progression first and foremost. It's the use in different areas that like all of a sudden, oh, now pandas is loaded in. I remember the first day it started writing Python. I was like, holy crap, where did this come from? Like it's writing Python code for me. Like now it's like expected. And so it's just like that continuous use to know that the tools, again, because I'm working with my direct analyst and we're both using it, it'll be like, hey, check this out. Like, this is what I did all today. And we're informing each other in real time. So I think I've created an environment here where everyone is, essentially using it or at least privy to it. Again, just keep on purporting it. I think that one of the biggest uses that I'm using right now is actually outside of marketing, or is really in operations, is using a
Hmm.
simple recording tool. And I know we do a lot of meetings and presentations. Again, as Trojan continues to grow, I feel like we're onboarding and training people constantly, and we're having these amazing presenters, speak and teach. But then if you're not there in the room, you have missed it, or you're going to just watch this Zoom recording, and there's some kind of context missed sometimes from that. And so what I've been doing, I just picked up a simple Zoom recorder. I think it's like the H1N I'm using. Take it with me to every meeting, record every bit of it. I'm using a software called Notta, Notta. It's not ChatGPT. Notta is an online service. I believe it's some Japanese engineers. It's a fantastic tool. I upload that MP3 into there. It transcribes everything. It actually separates the speakers. You can identify the speaker. So if it's all four of us, I could go back and say, that's Kyle's voice, that's Rodolfo's voice, that's my voice. It'll pump out the transcript with timestamps, names, everything. And then I take that transcript, feed it into GBT. And now after that meeting, I'm having meeting, notes to go out to everybody who didn't attend or did attend. And that also includes action items. That includes, here's your to-do list. It reiterates it maybe for other people that need to hear it in a different manner. And so in one step, just by simply recording the meeting, I can fire off, four, pieces out of that to various, C suites or levels. And it's just
And
making
no one
things
wants
so
to do
much
that work anyway.
right. Who wants to sit there and type that
And
and
draft minutes.
right.
Yeah.
Let alone the notes in real time, but then to go transcribe them and to really reiterate and then call out, okay, this specific person, this is your task. This specific person, that's your task. To just ask ChatGPT to pull all that out. And within 10 minutes after the meeting, all of that's fired up. I mean, how do you go back from that? Why would you ever do meeting notes manually again? Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
We like to ask this question to everyone that we have on the pod because we're very big on this. You know, do you have any playbooks or lessons learned? Like, if you had to pick one from another industry that you think that you know you're applying right now, or you think operators should apply as they run their operations?
Caution. Run with caution. So for full disclosure, and I always say this too, when we're running stuff, financials, personal stuff that you wouldn't want, Trojan has a proper GBT workspace that does not train the model. And so that the one, I think security, and I know Rodolfo, you and I have talked about this, and I think that's always, and that might be some of the reasons why people are not jumping full in, because they're not sure where their data goes. In all honesty, I think that conversation needs to be had, and I think I'm not mad at them for playing safety.
Sounds like an episode that we need to record in the new year is AI and your data privacy episode there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, when I'm very cautious, I'll use regular version if it's, writing reviews and stuff but when it is financials, when it is, something of Trojan importance, I will take it to the private server side. And I would recommend everybody do that too. Like I'm constantly asked that question, like, where does it go? And, unfortunately, I don't know, Sam. I don't work for OpenAI. So I can just tell you it's somewhere. People say, and can anybody else access that information? I'd like to say that absolutely not, but I can't say that. Like I honestly can't 100%. That's what I think happens, but I don't know that to be true. So I move in that same manner as well. There's
a lot of lawsuits happening right now that prove that probably is not the case, even if they say that it is.
Right. Exactly.
That's awesome. I think, yeah, we have some blogs and all that, but I think having a few people on that should be a pretty good. We get that question asked all the time on our end. So, cool, man. I think, to kind of wrap things up, what's next? What's next for Trojan? What's next for Kobre? Any exciting projects that you guys have in the horizon that you can, talk about, et cetera?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, Trojans in just an amazing time with exponential growth. As we know, we've partnered with QuickStor, so you'll see QuickStor go fully live, really kind of integrating Trojan from A to Z. We have, what else are we working on? Just continuing to purport AI within the company. I think this operational aspect is really being looked at within meeting notes in terms, like, everyone sees the value in it. So I think we're going to really start for the first time exploring like official policy on, making maybe some of these things requirements, or looking into that. What does that look like? If this is the new way we want to do that, how do we go about enforcing that as a company-wide policy without sounding too iron fisty? It's not like this is the new way now. So there's a balance that needs to happen. I think we'll be out, full force. Myself, I hope to do a lot more speaking presentations in the year. I think you'll find me, in New Mexico, first and foremost, in November. So if you happen to be in New Mexico, I'll see you there. Potentially Mountain West and, Texas, Napa, all the great shows. So, come find me. Let's chat, whether it be AI, marketing, self-storage. You need a pep talk, I'm the perfect person. Bring me in.
I'm gonna have to re-listen to that segment of today's podcast a couple times every time I wake up.
We got a lot of things. Again, we're just constantly growing. I mean, what I purport today that we're doing in 3 months, it might be a whole new thing, and it's an exciting time. I think it's exciting.
Where can people follow along, Gabriel? Give them your handles, and like, where are you posting? And obviously on some of the Trojan blogs, like, where can people keep up with you?
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn. If you're really looking for me, the best way to find me is LinkedIn. I believe it's just linkedin.com/the Gabriel Luna. You can find this beautiful mug out there. That's probably the best. Magic AI, again, a website where I kind of share most of my presentations and just some very practical stuff. I'm hoping to spend some time here in December and really kind of get some.
I was actually just checking it out. It's nice. They have a AI news portion. You have your AI tools with, like, these are paid services, non-paid. this is a little bit what they do. You connect them to all these to the actual websites.
Yes, sir.
Nice.
Fun little tidbit on that tools page. There's a filter. You can filter through paid or free. All of that was written by GBT, so it's all
Nice.
HTML coded. And that was an exercise in GBT to actually create framework and filters all with HTML only, and that's the result there on the page of it. I actually was going to create a post and share that prompt as well. That's Magic AI, MAAGIC.ai. For fun, highly check out TrojanStorage.blog. We have all kind. If you see all kinds of quirky stuff on there, that's absolutely me. And come find me again. Come just find me, present, and I would love to chat. I love talking with people in person. These kind of talks where I can just get intimate with you, open my heart, and have these kinds of conversations are really what keep me coming back. I'm a people person, for the people, by the people, all day, every day. And so find me in person. That's my preference.
Gabriel. Yeah, use all those AIs so that you can have those moments with humans, man. We appreciate so much the time you spent with us today. This was great. You'd always, kindred spirits and like very like-minded individuals. We could have gone 4 or 5 hours probably on different topics. So
I wrote notes in case we do this again and we do a round 2 or somewhere like in another format. Oh yeah. So
thank you, Kyle, Mason, Rodolfo. I absolutely thank you, gentlemen, for your time. I've been a fan of Swivel out of the gate. Trojan is still a strong user of it, and I'll always, talk very highly of it. It's a tool that works. It's a great tool. It looks great. It feels great. It's up my alley. I love you, gentlemen. Congratulations on Jennifer pickup. I'm super excited for you and
shout out to Jen. Look at that. Already getting a shout out on the podcast. We're excited about the team, man. Thank you so much, dude. Have I know this probably will be out in the new year, but have a happy holidays and, look forward to seeing you in the new year, dude.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen. Right. Appreciate your time.
As always, thanks for listening. You can find out more information about this episode and more at selfstoragelab.com.